Hello, my name is Sam Moffat, and welcome to another video talking about Tapforms 5 for Mac and iOS. One of the things that came up in the forum today was that there was no video that goes through creating a script from scratch and seeing what that looks like. So I figured that I'd actually give this a go with our existing Tapforms document that I've been using, and we'll see what it looks like to have that all set up. So we're going to create something interesting for this, which is going to be a project around a contact address book, but we're not going to use some of the built-in Tapforms features. We're going to craft this one from scratch. And then we're going to use a table field or a link to form field. I haven't quite figured out yet which one we're going to go with. Generally, I prefer the link to form over the table field, but that's personal preference. And we'll use that to demonstrate a couple of different features of the scripting engine. So let's just get started. We'll create ourselves a new form. And we're going to call this one contacts. Contacts. And we're going to do given name, family name, and what else do we want to put in here? Preferred name. Let's do preferred name. Now, normally when we do this, we'll say my preferred name is Sam, given name is Samuel, my family name is Moffat. Okay, so normally when we do this in Tapforms, it looks like this. And we can control roughly what that looks like. Wait, that should say Sam, Samuel. There we go. So we control this by setting the items, and we can see that we've got 3 fields or 1 field. Now, preferred name of Sam might actually be alright for this context, but maybe we want to do something a little different. And maybe what we want to do is join the given name and the family name together, or the preferred name and the family name together. So what we'll do is we'll create a script field for this. Now, we could do this with a calculation field, and we'll call it compose name. We could do this with a calculation field, but we want to do an example here with the script field. By default, script fields use a text return type, so that works for us. And it creates this placeholder for us that gives us a function, sets up the return value, and creates it. And now if we hit run on this, we can see hello world. On the left is our output, which is what we expect. Oops, this line here. And on the right, we actually also have a little console log. So to make something show up on the right, we type console.log hello console to hello console, and we'll hit run on this, and we can see that it's there. Now if we hit save and then we refresh on the bottom here, we'll see that it returned us hello world. Now if we click on the console here, let's just resize this so it fits a little better. Now when we hit refresh, we'll see that in the console we also get the hello console message. The console is great for being able to debug stuff, output messages that you don't normally want to see or include in the output. Now, we wanted to change this so that it returned the given name and the family name together. So let's do that. First step is to go into here and we'll say preferred name, and we'll double click on that. That inserts a variable for preferred name, and what it says is from the record, get the value of this field, and this field identifier is actually the identifier of this preferred name field. Behind the scenes, this is the unique identifier that Tapforms uses. Tab indent that, and we'll grab the family name and we'll click on the little arrow this time. It does the same thing as double clicking, except that it is the button versus the double click. It's a preference thing. So what we can do to begin with is we'll get rid of our console log and we'll get rid of all of this stuff. What we're going to do is return the preferred name plus a space plus the family name. Okay, so what this says is return or make the output of this function the preferred name or the value of the preferred name field, a space, and then the family name. And now we run that and we see that the output here is Sam Moffat. So we'll hit save, but we notice that it isn't updated here. And that's because update records when saving wasn't done. Now what this does is when this is ticked, it will take the script that you've just done and then apply it to every single record in your document as soon as you hit save. When you're in development, you probably don't want to have this because you want to be able to make sure that it works on 1 or 2 records, but as soon as you do that, you can see that compose name updates the way one would expect. So we have compose name of Sam Moffat. Now, not everyone has the form preferred name then family name. So what we'll do is we'll add a little checkbox. And we'll make it a check mark. And then we will say family name first. In a bunch of different cultures, the family name is often first and often also capitalized. So what we'll do is we'll add in a little field here. We will tick it so that we've got that enabled. And now we'll go back to edit our script. Same deal here. We're going to put in a new line and then we're going to add in our thing. So family name first. And we'll do the very simple thing. If family name first, then what we want to do is return family name plus preferred name. Now, we could do an else statement here, and that says if the first thing isn't true, we do the second thing. But it isn't actually strictly necessary. So when we check this, we say if family name first is ticked, then return family name space preferred name. Otherwise, return preferred name space family name. So let's test that out. And we can see that now it says Moffat Sam as the name. Now, because this statement here on line 7 is a return, that means that we immediately exit this function. And it means no other lines after this line, if family first is true, will be executed. So that means that we can simplify to delete that and that. And when we do this, we get the same value. Now if we hit save, we see that's there. Now if we untick it, we see that it swaps back. In Tapforms 5, when you create a script field, as we've done here, it will set up a watch that will automatically recompute the script field, rerun the script field when the values that it's related to change. So if I change my preferred name to John, as soon as I hit enter to save that, my preferred name is changed. We'll set that back to Sam. Now, where this is really useful is before I set the value of the single column list view to be 1. If I set it to 2, now it includes my full composed name. Now this is a great technique of being able to combine multiple fields into a single row in the single column list view by using a script field or a calculation field to join the values together into a single field that is then rendered by Tapforms. I personally use this in one of my records for purchasing where details about the state of the item, so whether it's delivered, the category that it's in, and a couple of other fields are actually joined together with slashes between them, so that it can differentiate between it, and I can put a lot more value in the single column list view without having to click in to the item. So that's a really simple example of how we get a value out of the system. We can work with it, we can put it together to compose to do something else. When I started this, I said that we're going to create another item, which is a link to form field or a table field, and show how we can do a similar thing with the child records loop to bring those values together. So let's do that now. We'll create another form, and what we're going to say is hobbies. Let's do hobbies. Hobbies is an interesting one. Now this one's a bit overkill for a form, but hobby name, active start, active end. And we'll make these into date fields. Typeforms is going to give us a warning here that we're going to change the field type. We haven't done anything, so we are safe to do that. Warning telling us that we're changing the field type. Okay, and we'll say my hobby is Typeforms 5. And when did I start working on Typeforms 5? Let's say 2017. And I still work with Typeforms 5. Once upon a time, I used to work on Joomla. That was in 2005, I think, and then I kicked that habit in 2012. And we'll do one more hobby, and we'll say YouTube. And I did YouTube at the start of the year, let's say. So let's put, oops, try that again. There we go. Everything's on the 26th. And we're not currently doing that. So, let's go back to contacts. And we will add a new, drag that down to the bottom, link to form. And we're going to link to our hobbies form, and we're going to link in all three of these hobbies that I just created. We're going to add in a show inverse, and we've got all of that linked together, and there's a contact field there that we can use to jump back and forth. Now, what we're going to do is add a script that says active hobbies. And what we might do is add one more hobby, and that hobby is going to be Twitch. Let's say Twitch. I had a very short Twitch career. Let's say we started it in March, and we're going to end it by Christmas. I'm going to have Christmas, and then that's going to be it for me on Twitch. So we have a couple of things. We have a hobby, we have when it started, when it ended, and it's linked back to this record. Now, if we did a table field, we would actually model a very similar setup, except this sort of link to this form would be implicit. It wouldn't be an extra field or link that would otherwise be available. And we can see that this link type, this particular link type, is one-to-many. So that means that if we go and say John Doe, if we go and select one, we'll select Twitch, we'll see that it's stolen from me as Sam and now assigned to John. Now, you generally don't want that, and what we'll do is go back to me, and we'll steal that one back. So, let's have a look at creating a script field when we've got a few things in it. Now, when we've got all of this in here, let's just delete this, because what we're going to do is use hobby name. We're going to scroll down to the bottom here, and we're going to look for child records loop. I'm going to double click on that, and it's going to insert some template code for us. It's automatically picked up the hobbies ID, the hobby name, and this basically gets us all of the linked records. This works the same way for table fields or linked to form fields to get you all of the records. So we're doing a test here where we get the hobby name, which is this field here, and then we do a check to see if hobby name. And what we'll do is, just to get started, we'll just do console log hobby name. And we'll hit play on that. And it ran twice. Let's untick that. Run when saving. There we go. So we can see Joomla, Tapform 5s, Twitch, and YouTube, which are each of the hobby names. Now, what we can do is create hobby list, which is an array. And we can do hobby list.append hobby name. This adds each of the things to the array. Oh wait, is it append or is it push? Type error. Append is not a function. It's push. There we go. Wrong language. Okay. It's now pushed it in here, and now we can do hobby list.join, and we'll do a comma. We'll hit run. And now we've returned the value, and what we've done is we've taken each of those hobby names that before we were logging, we've pushed them into the array that we created here, and then we returned the value. In the previous value, we returned it and it went as the output. So let's just hit update records and save, and we'll see that now in active hobbies we have all of these items. Now, when we do hobby list, which is an array is just a set of elements. Think of them as little cubby holes of elements that we can individually reference as 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, however many there are. Now, what join does is it takes all of those entries, puts them together, and then puts this value between them. In this case, it's a string with a comma and a space. And that gives us this nicely formatted list. It makes sure that we don't have any weirdness with a comma at the end or a comma at the start. It handles all of that logic for us. Now, we wanted to check if the hobby name was active. So to do that, we need to know when it started and when it finished. And we'll indent that back up, and let's make our resolution a little bigger. So now when we have a look at it, we've done active start and active end. We can check to see if we have a hobby name. And what we'll do is one more thing, which is var. Actually, we'll put this out here. Var today equals new date. And what we'll do is we'll just check to see that we did that right. Okie dokie, we can see, oops. Each time, when you save, even if you hit save here in the save script option, which is what I'm doing, update records will update each time you save that, which is generally why you want to have that disabled. Okay, that's why we get this sort of interesting output here. So let's just hit run again. So we get a clean output. So we're logging the date. That's good. And what we should be able to do is we want to check if the hobby name is set, and we want to make sure that the active start date is before today, and if there is no active end, actually we'll do active start and active is less than today. So if we have the hobby name set, if we have the active start date set, we'll add a new line. If the active start date is less than today, so before today, and we'll do one more check, which is if the active end date isn't set, or the active end date is after today. And we'll put it like that. So let's give this a go and see if this does what we expect. So at the moment we're getting Joomla, Tapforms, Twitch, and YouTube. Let's hit run, and we get Tapforms, Twitch, and YouTube. So Joomla has now disappeared from our list. So let's just hit save on this and we'll refresh. And we'll see that our active hobbies is Tapforms 5, Twitch, which is true, it doesn't end until December, and YouTube. So Joomla's already started and ended, and let's just add one more hobby, and we'll call it instructional design. Oops, instructional design. And it doesn't have a start date, and we'll set an end date just to see if we can trip it up. And the end date can be next week. So we hit refresh on that just to make sure that it's being set. And actually, do we still have that console.log in? I don't think. Let's go back and just put that console.log today. We'll hit save so that we get something in our log so that we know that we're doing something. Okay. So even though we set that to be empty for the start date, because we checked to see if the start date wasn't set, it's not included in our list. So let's say that we started. So let's say we started on the 27th. It's still not there. We'll hit refresh again. Make sure that it's not there. Let's change this to be the 1st. And now when we refresh, instructional design is now a part of the list. Now, the challenge with scripts across link to forms is not always does it get fully updated when everything changes. So we can see that whilst it's detecting that, when we actually make the changes here, it's not immediately updating the field here. And I think even if we go in and change it to be the 29th, it's still there. And we still have to hit refresh. And that's a bit of a downside of this particular implementation. Now, I said before, we could do the exact same thing with a table field. So let's do that. Let's go create a table field. And we'll call it hobbies table. We'll edit our table field. We'll add our hobby name. Oops. Would help if I typed that properly. Active start. Make that a date field. And then if I set this first, actually doesn't bother me if I set it first. And we'll just add in our Joomla 26th of September 2005 to 26th of September 2012. And we'll say Tapforms 5, 26 September 2017. So we can look at our active hobbies, and now we have an extra field for hobbies tables. So let's create a brand new one from scratch. will be a script field. We're going to call it active hobbies table. And we're going to do that again. So instead of using the hobbies linked to form, and you can see it's got a little one-to-many icon here, we're going to use the hobbies table. First step, delete that, because when we use the child records loop, I don't think this works, but let's try it. Yeah. It only picked the active end. So let's just delete that and we'll use hobbies table. Hobby name. Okay. So let's do the same test we did last time. First things first, we'll do a console.log hobby name. Joomla taps form 5 as we expect. We're going to add a new variable for hobby list. That's going to be an array again, so we use the square brackets to tell JavaScript that this is an array. We're going to then do hobby list.push to add in, push the hobby name into the thing. We're going to run that one more time. It's going to give us no output because we just removed that console.log line. And then we're going to update this to be hobby list.join. And once we've done that, we should get our list here. Very cool. And now we're going to do the same thing we did last time, where we're going to add in our two active start and active end. And then we also need to add in today equals new date. And we'll do a console.log for today, so that each time this script runs, we write out that. And what we'll actually do is we'll put a thing, we'll put a little message saying active hobbies table, and we'll put that. So let's hit run on that. We've done a bunch of changes, and we've got an error. Isn't that interesting? Type error, undefined is not an object, column 34, line 4. What? Oh. Oh, okay. So what that error was is that we put that at the top and we probably needed to put it at the bottom here, which is true. Let's do that. And we'll hit run on that. Okay, we have our output, we have active hobbies table, which is the message we just added here with a little space. And then JavaScript is automatically turning the date object into this formatted date for me, which is cool. Now I'm going to cheat and we're just going to jump back. We're going to grab this logic and just dump it in because, well, we don't really need to retype it. So to recap, if the hobby name is set, so that means that it's a non-empty value. If the active start field is set, again, that means that it's not an active value. If the active start date is before today's date, and these are all AND conditions. So if it's before today, not after today, then we check the last bit, which is if active end isn't set. And now this is an interesting bit of logic. It's a negation operator. We have this exclamation mark here that says take the value of the thing following it and flip it. So before we said if this is set, right, this is true, right? So if this is not set, it would be false. But by putting the exclamation mark in front of it, we flip it to say that it's true. And now this is important because this allows us to set an empty end date for our hobby. It's a useful bit of coding. And so what it does is it says that if this isn't set, if it hasn't ended yet, then evaluate this as true, or evaluate this as true, and the little bars mean or, evaluate if true if the active end date is a date greater than today. And then we're going to push that into our list. We're going to join it together, and then we'll hit run on that. And now we only get tap forms 5. And we'll hit save on that, and we'll add a brand new thing. We notice that it doesn't add anything, and we're going to call this one, we'll pick on YouTube again. We hit run on this, refresh on this, doesn't change because again we don't have our start date set. We'll set our start date to today, and now we see automatically that this calculation field, the script field, is updated to include the new value that we just added. And if I go and set, we'll do one more for Twitch because we had that before, and we'll do 26th of March 2020. Twitch is now in our list for the active hobbies table, but we set an end date of 25th September 2020. It disappears from us, right? Again, if we go back to our link to form field, we change it, doesn't immediately update. We have to hit the refresh button to make that happen. Now, sometimes this does update properly, and the solution I've generally found is if you quit and we reopen it, sometimes it's enough for it to start to behave better. So we'll do that. Yeah, and it's still that way. Still have to hit refresh. (2012, 2020). Copy that, and we'll just paste that. So let's recap what we've gone through. We created a brand new form. We added our compose name, and we added a little toggle thing so that we can control which ordering it does. We then created a new form, and we used a link to form field to join stuff together. We added the inverse relationship, and then we created a script that monitored it. But then we ran into the issue that it didn't automatically update, and we wanted to make sure that it automatically updated. It had issues where the record could be stolen by other forms, by other records, such as our John Doe record, and we didn't want that. So then we went and we created a table. And when we use the table, we see that our little form script updated the way we expected. There's a lot more you can do with Tapforms 5. It has a very powerful scripting interface that allows us to make a lot of changes. Hopefully this has been helpful in giving you a bit of an insight of how you can get values from the fields, join them together, use the child records loop. There's a bunch of other snippets in there that do powerful stuff, but my absolute favorite is the child records loop that allows you to quickly get up and running and do some examples. Thanks for watching my videos. If you enjoy these, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the video, and I will see you on the next one.